Life of Pi, chapters 79 to 90. Chapter 79. Pi says there were sharks every day. Makos, blues, oceanic whitetips, and once even a tiger shark. They usually visited at dawn and dusk. Pi says he caught many sharks around sunset. His first was a small mako. As Pi pulled it in, it fought back, and Pi threw it toward Richard Parker. The tiger pawed at the fish, and its left paw got stuck in the shark's mouth. The two animals fought hard, so Pi escaped to his raft. Later, after the tiger killed the shark, Pi ate some of the shark's remains. From then on, Pi says, he caught only shark pups. Richard Parker's wounds slowly healed. Chapter 80. Pi is excited when he catches a big dorado that was chasing a flying fish. Pi gets it just before a shark does, but Richard Parker wants it. Pi stares the tiger down. Pi takes the fish to his raft, but then gives the tiger a big piece. Pi now feels comfortable on the lifeboat. Richard Parker lets Pi stay on the boat without challenging him. Pi gets used to the tiger being there, and Pi can even turn his back and lie down. Now Pi spends more time on the lifeboat and less on the raft. Chapter 81. Pi says he knows people will have trouble believing he survived, but he survived because Richard Parker had no place to go hunt. He needed Pi to provide for him. Chapter 82. Pi hid the rainwater and water from the solar stills from Richard Parker in order to protect the plastic bags and buckets and in order to ration the water. When Pi caught a fish or turtle, he ate pieces immediately just like an animal, so Richard Parker would not take the food. Then Pi fed the tiger. Chapter 83. A storm turns the ocean waves into high mountains and deep valleys. Pi thinks he must choose to die by the sea or by the tiger. He chooses to die by animal and puts out the sea anchors and pulls the tarpaulin completely over the lifeboat. He lies down on a bench while Richard Parker lies down on the floor. Pi holds on to the side of the bench and a tarp rope. He says, "The tarpaulin beat me to a pulp. I was soaked and chilled, and I was bruised and cut by bones and turtle shells. The noise was constant, as was Richard Parker's snarling." The storm ends that night. At dawn, Pi sees that the raft has been destroyed. Much food has been washed away, and the tarp is torn in many places. Pi bails water out of the lifeboat. He finds the last safety whistle, all that remained between him and death. Chapter 84. A whale appears next to the boat. Pi looks into its eye, which is the size of Pi's head. Pi thinks the whale is looking for a mate, but when it sees the tiger, the whale thinks Pi and the tiger are mated. The whale goes away. On his voyage, Pi sees many whales, and he gives them names: Pimfu, Lamfu, Mumfu, Tomfu, and Stimfu. He imagines them trying to get Pi help from ships, but instead they are killed by whale hunters. Pi thinks whale hunting is a heinous crime. During his journey, Pi also sees dolphins and 6 seabirds, 2 albatrosses, 2 Wilson's petrels, a short-tailed shearwater, and a masked booby. Pi hopes the presence of birds means land is near, but it does not. Pi caught the masked booby by giving it a piece of dorado. Then Pi twisted its neck, took off the feathers, and ate the flesh, the 3 fish in the bird's stomach, and everything he could manage. Pi threw the skin and the rest to Richard Parker. Pi says none of the birds ever announced land. Chapter 85. Pi sees lightning strike the water. Richard Parker is trembling, but Pi tells him to stop because they have just seen a miracle. Pi says that although he received 3rd-degree burns, the lightning strike was one of the few moments of happiness during his ordeal. He adds, "At moments of wonder, it is easy to entertain thoughts that span the universe." Chapter 86. Pi is excited when he sees a huge oil tanker approaching. He thinks he is saved and hopes that his family has been rescued. He believes they are dead, but maybe... Suddenly, Pi realizes that no one on the tanker has seen the lifeboat. The tanker is going to hit Pi's tiny boat. Pi puts oars into oarlocks, and the huge tanker misses Pi by 2 feet. Pi fires off a rocket flare, but it hits the side of the tanker, and Pi is not seen. He blows his whistle, but is not heard. Pi turns to Richard Parker and says he loves him, and that without him, Pi would die of hopelessness. Pi promises to get the tiger to land. Chapter 87. Pi sometimes needs to escape his situation, so he uses a dream rag. He wets a piece of blanket with seawater, puts it over his face, and breathes through it. With restricted oxygen, he has strange dreams. When the rag dries and falls off, Pi wakes up, and the dry rag proves that time has passed. Pi also feels like something has changed. Chapter 88. The lifeboat runs into an area full of oil and trash, lumber, wine bottles, plastic containers, cloth, rope, a refrigerator without its motor, and yellow foam. Note: do an internet search for Pacific floating garbage to get more information about this topic. Pi puts a message in a bottle. Japanese-owned cargo ship Tsimtsum, flying Panamanian flag, sank July 2nd, 1977 in Pacific, 4 days out of Manila. Am in lifeboat. Pi Patel my name. Have some food, some water, but Bengal tiger is serious problem. Please advise family in Winnipeg, Canada. Any help appreciated. Thank you. Chapter 89. Pi says everything suffered. Everything is bleached by the sun. Even the bright orange is now a whitish orange. The salt and the sun destroyed everything, even the smells. Pi and Richard Parker perished slowly. The tiger became a skeleton in an oversized bag of faded fur. Pi became skin and bone. Both slept most of the time. In the last pages of his diary, Pi describes a visit by a tiger shark, Pi's attempt to gaff a dolphin, Pi's inability due to weakness to blow his whistle, his feeling that his brains are boiling, and then his belief that he and the tiger will soon die. Then it rains, and they are saved. Pi drinks and lets the rain wash the salt off of his body. The tiger finally is able to lift his head to drink. Pi's last diary entry is, "It's no use. Today I die. I will die today. I die." Pi does not die, but he can write no more. Though he had worried about running out of paper, he instead has run out of ink. Chapter 90. After 3 days without food, Pi is able to catch a dorado. He eats his share and throws the rest to the tiger, who cannot catch it. The tiger is blind. The next day, Pi's eyes start stinging. A black spot appears, and then he loses all vision but clings to life. The morning after he goes blind, though, Pi decides it's time to end his suffering and die. Pi feels that he has failed as a zookeeper. He drinks some water and says goodbye to Richard Parker. He tells his family he is coming to join them. He says he loves God, and then he waits to die. Unexpectedly, Pi hears a voice. The voice asks if anyone is there, and Pi replies. Pi thinks he has gone crazy, but has a conversation anyway. The two decide to talk about food. Pi lists his favorites, all vegetarian dishes. Then the stranger lists his, all meats, especially organ meats. He says he would not eat a carrot by choice. Pi thinks that he is somehow hearing Richard Parker's voice. Pi thinks it is fascinating to be able to talk to a tiger and asks if the tiger has ever killed anyone. The reply is yes, a man and a woman. Pi asks if they tasted good. The voice replies with a no, and Pi asks why the man and woman were killed. The voice says they were killed out of need. It was them or me. Pi calls the tiger a monster, sees that the tiger acted out of instinct, and believes that humans are better. They can act for other reasons. Suddenly, Pi realizes that he is not hearing Richard Parker's voice. He is hearing a voice with a French accent. Is it real or is it an echo? Finally, Pi shouts out his own name and gets a reply, not an echo. There is a Frenchman in a boat by Pi's boat. As they talk, they discover that they have both gone blind from being castaways, and neither has food or water. Both cry. Pi says he knows a story, but the other castaway does not want to hear it because words have no calories. Pi says, seek food where food is to be found. The two use the little strength they have to row toward each other. They talk about eating bananas, cigarettes, and boots. As they locate one another by sound, they finally bring their two boats together. The visitor falls heavily onto the tarpaulin and Pi. Pi hears a growl and says he has forgotten to tell the man something important. Pi also says happily that the man has Pi's heart, and the man says he also has Pi's other organs. Clearly, the man is intending to eat Pi. Richard Parker attacks and kills the man. Pi says, "That was the terrible cost of Richard Parker. He gave me a life, my own, but at the expense of taking one. Something in me died then that has never come back to life. Richard Parker tore off the man's flesh and cracked his bones."